So yeah, I'm today going to talk about the project that I've been involved in together with some colleagues for the past 2 years. I also come from not the public sector, so I was working for other types of companies, and it was very exciting to get into this and to learn about justice, to learn about the complexity of the public sector, and also a lot of legalese terms. It's like a completely different world with so many intricacies and complexities. Um, we tried to make the Rechtsantragsstelle a little bit more user-centered. And I deeply believe that we can do this somehow. First of all, though, while I'm talking in a lot of legalese terms, who here knows what a Rechtsantragsstelle, or in English, legal application office, actually is?
Kind of.
Yeah, I didn't, and I had never been to one before. As I think I once maybe entered a court in school sometime. Um, so a legal application office is a place in all public courts in Germany. People can come there with very different legal concerns, like wanting to leave the church, or renouncing an inheritance, or some very more amorphous, like not so clear questions. Also, some massacre. This I actually encountered. So people come there with all types of questions and issues, and they can be raised in different forms. So people can physically go there and talk to someone and explain their case, and then this person helps them and makes a decision, or they can hand in a paper form, and then the case has been decided. And also there's some things that can also be applied for digitally, but they're very rare at this moment. Real people work in the application office. They're called Rechtspfleger, or I would now call them legal officers. They can help you find the correct application, the form, help you fill this in, make all the necessary things, and then also decide over this application. They're sort of like little judges. Do you have, like, we're only bound by the law, and you can make like smaller decisions. As an applicant, you can get a Bescheid, so some type of paper, like here, from that person, a title or certificate, an authorization, anything. But there's really a lot of them that we don't even know how many at the Rechtsantragsstelle are possible. It's really not possible to count, even because there is a lot of Dachshunds involved. Our goal in this project is that we want to empower citizens to easily find out about their rights and to start them digitally. So to empower people in this very complex system, to give them access to justice in a digital way somehow. Our pilot, which we started about 2 years ago, was legal aid, or in German, a very German term, a very German version of legal aid as well, called Beratungshilfe. It's the assumption of legal fees for people with little money who have some legal problem. It's a complex, but relatively standardized form. Okay, this is kind of, we started in Google and translated to PowerPoint. There are high numbers of applications, and it's really at the core of access to justice because it's directed at people who have little money and are often encountering different barriers. As Charlotte already pointed at, the digitalization of the legal application office presents us with a number of challenges. I would go into some of them as well, not to repeat, but in the justice system especially, we have a lot of paper. Like, I was really surprised on going into courts, like how much paper there's. Every file is to be kept for 5 years. And by law, a lot of paper has to be involved, like in Erbverfahren, for example. You need to have a physical testament, and it has to be paper at some stage, or a Beratungshilfeschein some stage needs to have like a physical form. There's a lot of signing real papers. And then also, yeah, for different reasons, the justice system has been a bit slower, I think, than other parts of Verwaltung in digitalizing things. So it's really hard to find services that are already being digitalized for citizens. We have 638 local courts in Germany, just to give you a number. There's more than 400,000 applications for legal aid in the year 2020, for example. Yeah, more than 230,000 of these were submitted by paper form. The rest is an oral, or people go to the court and explain their case, just to give you a number of the scope of this. And this is one application of a number of ones. I've really experienced how painful change can be there. It's a lot of effort and media breaks. The German justice system seems to be in a transformation phase where everything seems to happen everywhere all at once. Every court is somewhat responsible for its own digitalization and its own processes, so it's very difficult to find patterns and to make sure that it's working. During change periods, very often things have to be processes have to be maintained both in the digital form and in the paper form. So you have your paper files and they are being digitalized at the same time. So this is double work, which is hard on a system where people are already working too much. Sometimes the digital process is just not the paper ones, etc., etc. So you probably know some of this. Yeah, the digitalization of justice applications is a responsibility of the federal states. So a lot of single states have come up with their own digital solutions, which can be great because it's happening, something is happening somewhere, awesome. But very often they're like island solutions. Like in Bavaria, where you need the Bavarian ID in order to authorize yourself for these services, or in Baden-Württemberg. So some of these systems are even not compatible. There's also some great local services, like in Niedersachsen, they have a service hotline, which is awesome for like a low density territory where people can just call and get information. Yeah, we're encountering frequent barriers for users, like or the users that are applicable for legal aid more frequently have certain barriers, like 3 to 4% like times of the applicants are non-German speakers, non-native speakers, compared to the general population. People with little income often have limited access to digital technologies, like don't own a desktop computer or don't own the laptop. Digital competence is often lower with people who have a lower income, lower level of education. And it's a higher personal risk to become active, for example, against your landlord if you couldn't afford another apartment, if you're losing that. And since legal aid is directed at people who have things like UGAD Sozialhilfe or other social welfare, they're very often have or by the situation they can have illnesses or disabilities. And forms are very often, or at least like Bundesweite forms are often very developed top down. Like this one, the Beratungshilfe one, it's not really measured, but they're being developed by law people. We asked for Beratungshilfe in all the courts that we encountered, and they usually gave us a number between 70 and 99%, more often 99% or 90%. So this is the number that we went with. And we're now tracking this as well. And it's sad that it's not being systematically evaluated at this time at all. And yeah, so we're trying with that. Reason for that, the form is really not easy to understand. So it's a language issue. The questions are difficult to understand. And we also learned that many of the important questions are simply not asked. But yeah, now I'd first come to our digital solution, or the things that we've been working on. we created some information pages because we saw that like the biggest problem was to orient, or like one big problem was to orient oneself on in this whole system. Then there is information pages for frequently asked questions. We have developed an eligibility checker so that people find out if they're probably eligible for legal aid or not, and also made the made the application itself more easy to fill through an online assistant, where you ask dialogically in plain language the questions to fill the application. And then we have a start page, which could be the seed for a German justice portal. And we're also recently working on the form itself, which I will come to in a moment. Our participatory design setup. When we started, we were sure we want to modernize the German justice system together with the Bund and the federal states. So we don't want to do it with just one player or just in like a pilot in one state, but it was very important to start with the system together. So our transformation manager, Caro Merz, she came up with this model, the onion of collaboration, we called it, where we, the DigitalService, transformation managers, user researchers, now designers, developers, are at the core. We started with 4 people and now we're 17 in this team. And we work together with the ministry directly. And we now have 10 partner states that we work with to align on overarching topics and find the big important questions together. And then we have now 18 pilot courts where our user-centered work can really happen. So where we go to work with people. And we also recruited 3 expert panels from these pilot courts, which is consists of legal officers that we get to speak with regularly. We have developed different formats for these type of onion layers, but it's been really that interesting part to get this whole thing to work. Our vision is to make the application process so simple that it is intuitive and accessible even for people without a legal background, which is actually quite a challenge. We also want to relieve justice officers in their day-to-day work through error-free or as error-free as possible applications, giving them more time for what really matters, which is helping people. As Charlotte said as well, we encounter a lot of people who actually really care about that in this system, which is great as well. Our iterative process. So we start now by understanding the requirements. We go to courts, we speak with people, shadow and interview them in their situation. Then we create content together with experts mostly and test them with citizens in the situation. And then again, do a quality assurance with experts. Yeah, these are some images from court visits. So we've been to 10 courts by now, not only me, but also my team and others, where we observe people and speak to them. One problem that we frequently came across is the so-called Angelegenheitsbeschreibung or case description, which is a major part of the form. And we learned that it is almost never filled in correctly, which is again due to different reasons, but it's absolutely vital to decide the case. So we need some details to know if this case can be supported by legal aid. But it only asks for the Angelegenheit. Much important detail is actually missing in this question, which often leads to those Zwischenverfügung. So in 90% of cases, people actually get letters like this, which is very difficult to understand. We try to translate them somehow, but yeah, they're quite tough. And very often this is the end. So people don't go far after the Zwischenverfügung. They don't apply further. We are going a lot to the courts to also listen in and learn from the oral applications, where the legal officers ask these questions in much different terms. So they're actually asking for what happened. They have different questioning techniques. They use plain language. They use a lot of conditional questions, etc. We try to map these conditional questions from the expertise with the experts, so with some of the legal officers. And we also conduct a lot of workshops we have in our expert panels to have the legal officers to find patterns between how they map these things out and also how they make decisions, which leads to a lot of discussion, which is super exciting to watch, to see how differently they make decisions and what they need. We then develop wireframes together and get feedback on Miro. Actually, we also found that the legal officers, some of them are really happy to work with those digital tools and feel excited about it. The best part is to go into context testing. This is with one of our favorite legal officers who organized 16 user tests, or he had like 16 applicants come to him on that day who had made appointments before. And then we asked them all to participate and had an extra room where they filled out our form on a computer. We then generated a PDF, printed that, and gave it to him to validate and to see if what the quality is like. And this was our main test setup. And it's again the spirit that is great in this type of setup. We learned a lot of things through these types of tests, like the logic theory in practice was quite exciting. The categorization makes a lot of sense for legal officers, but we quickly learned in user tests that it's super tough for real people to assign their problem to a category. So a lot of the time they failed, and they still fail. We keep iterating on this. So we've added longer descriptions and different types of texts. We try to use the words that they use, etc. But it's still very tough. But we're improving. We're also using different text fields with specific questions, like the legal officers are asking in the work and practice to explain the case. And we get positive feedback from the applicants. We used a panel of experts to also validate the different forms. So after each test, we anonymize the forms and put them again in a Miro board and let them have like an asynchronous virtual discussion. By green, the post-its are for yes, pink for no, and then yellow for Zwischenverfügung, or those letters. And then they had their reasons and discussions in Miro, and we could see, okay, what's our quota for like clear decisions or not. But a lot of the time we also got quite good feedback from the court workers as well. Few things we learned, or I learned as well. I think that effective collaboration across these different hierarchical levels is possible. It's quite it's not just users in the public sector that we have to work with, but also these different political levels. It takes a lot of time, trust, and dedication. So to build up this onion model, I think for us took about 9 months to build, to get to these points where we actually could speak to the courts and have this. But once it's in place, we can really bundle resources. Like now, or do the researchers on things there, we can just access the right courts and the right people super quickly and go there and bring people in contact with each other, which is great for recruiting as well. Also, we can build more aligned and more standardized solutions. And I really think that we have, through this early collaboration, much more acceptance and a shared sense of ownership. I think the best moment in this project was for me when a justice officer was explaining to like a big room other justice officers what a beta version of software is and why it's okay to make mistakes. And I was blown away, or to not be perfect. This close collaboration with pilot courts enables us to do more inclusive development. I think we still can work closer together with the citizens as well. And this gives us access to the people in their situation, which is a very tough and vulnerable situation if they're applying for something like legal aid. It's also challenging to work with them, but it allows us to really go into the context and learn about them. And I also believe, or I experienced, how change through delivery is possible, but it takes time. Measurable success provides us with arguments for deeper transformation of processes and rules. Like this number I showed you earlier of 90%. This was the door opener for us to speak to the responsible department within the Ministry of Justice that works on the laws and the paper form for legal aid. Before that, they didn't want to speak with us, but when we had the number, they were open, and now we're working on the paper form. So it was a really big step and a bit of a journey. Yeah, but I think these numbers are very, very important to make a case and get a mandate. Yeah. Thank you very much.